Viktor gets it done at the BMW. Let's take a deep dive into his golf swing and see the reason why he can get the club into this position here. First things first, let's take a look at Viktor's kneecaps. You'll notice that the left one will start to bend towards the camera and the right one will start to work away from the camera, meaning that left leg is starting to increase flex and the right leg is starting to straighten. The important thing about this is twofold. He starts to get his right hip higher than his left hip, and he also starts to get an extremely big shoulder turn and a big hip turn from this. Whenever you start to see the knees changing flex like this, from here to there, it's going to allow the hips to open up. And therefore, if the hips are opening up, then the chest is able to open up and the shoulders can start to turn as much as they want. It also generates this incline to the hips, which is going to allow Viktor to push in that direction there and down and towards the ground and generate a lot of power from there. The other thing that is quite clear in Viktor's swing is his wrist and his club face angle. Viktor's emblem on his glove is pointing up towards the sky, and what that's going to do is going to point this club face up towards the sky as well. So it's going to close the club face. Viktor has got his glove hand in flexion and his right hand in extension, or you could call that left hand going into a bowing motion like Dustin Johnson. And clearly that is applying a force to that club face, which is going to work the club face more into a closed position. And why that is important is when you get into an impact position such as Viktor with an extreme amount of shaft lean, that is going to open up the club face. So it's going to point the face angle more to the right. So if the club face with the shaft lean is pointing too far to the right, then it needs to be offset somehow in the golf swing previously. And that's where it comes to the fact of Viktor bowling his left wrist or working his left wrist into flexion. So that's one of the main reasons as to why Viktor has such extreme shaft lean impact, because if he didn't hit it left every single time, that shaft lean points the face more to the right. He starts to offset it, and he's found a middle ground which works for him as to how much his left wrist will bow and how much shaft lean he's going to need. The other thing that I want to point out about Viktor's swing is what we mentioned previously as this incline to the hips. With this incline towards the hips, you're going to start to see a big pressure shift down and towards the target. Without this incline to the hips, you'll start to see chest work too far that way and the hips just work too far laterally. Obviously, there is some lateral motion to his hips, but a lot of it has worked down and towards the ground. And then when he gets closer towards impact and then after impact, you'll start to see that left leg will straighten and it will start to apply a force up in this direction here as he pulls his handle also up in that direction there. You'll start to notice that his hands are going to work up in that fashion. So he's almost pulling this club out of the ground. Without creating an incline to his hips, Viktor would not be able to do that. So those are the few things that Viktor does extremely well. I think makes him one of the best ball strikers in the world.